The first Halloween game has been revealed, and not only just a Halloween game, but an Evil Dead one as well. The reason I bring that up is if you buy both of these titles, you can actually cross into the other game with the other. Deadites beware, the shape is coming for you. I know this isn't what a lot of people expected, but I'm really excited for this title. I grew up with a lot of games in the similar vein as this, such as Castlevania and Double Dragon. My only hope is for Myers to be able to grab enemies and do a variety of things with them, whether it be toss them into other enemies, use the environment, just straight up executing them. I hope there's some sort of grab mechanic. And if you pre-order the game, you can also play as Lori and Kelly. I'm super stoked for this, and we don't even have to wait long. It comes out this upcoming October. I can't wait to see Halloween the game in my library. Halloween the game. That's going to be reality soon. That's so crazy. Also, because this game is called Retro Realms, I wonder if that means we'll get further crossovers in this style, such as Friday the 13th or Texas Chainsaw. I would love to see a co-op feature implemented, Jason and Myers fighting side by side against an army of Deadites. That sounds so cool. But now that this game is revealed, that does raise the question as to what is the other Halloween game. Is the big Unreal Engine game single player or multiplayer? Quite frankly, I have no idea. I think either side has good evidence. I think I would lean more towards multiplayer, but there is this quote saying you'll be able to relive classic moments from Halloween, but this could just be a little single player mode and a bigger multiplayer experience, sort of like what we saw with the single player challenges in Friday the 13th, the game. The company making the game also worked on Evil Dead. It should also be noted that this was not the main company that made Evil Dead. I saw a lot of confusion in the last video. They only helped with Evil Dead, but they have experience in making ASIMs, so this would make the most sense to me, but I could see a more narrative experience being done as well. Regardless, I'm going to go over what I would want to see the most from either of these experiences. This has just been the only thing I could think about, so I need to get it out of my system. Let's start with the single-player experience, since I think that would be a bit more unique, I suppose. I feel we'd already have a good idea as to what the multiplayer one would sort of be like, but I'll still give my thoughts on certain things I feel can make the experience feel different from past ASIMs. For the single-player experience, I would love to see multiple campaigns with 3 characters to choose from. These 3 characters being Lori, Loomis, and Michael. These 3 characters would all offer a unique perspective on Halloween. Lori would feel the most like a traditional horror experience, Loomis would be a detective sort of gameplay, and Myers would be a more strategic way of playing the game. I'll go ahead and break them all down in more detail. With Lori, as mentioned before, she'd be the most simple, just a straight-up horror mode experience. Myers hunting you down with some creative liberties taken, since Myers really only truly chases Lori at the end of the film. I think there's a few ways to remedy this. As I just mentioned earlier, just add more chase sequences that weren't in the film, or you switch up your playable character, but that might not be as fun since those characters are just doomed to die. Could be pretty spooky though. But I think the better alternative is to make a story that loosely follows the original and give Lori more of an objective. Maybe something as simple as Tommy decides to investigate the boogeyman. He leaves the house and you have to follow as Lori. Then Myers just chases you around as you have to solve some minor puzzles, fight back against Myers, and get Tommy back. This could also result in Lori from just simply saving Tommy. It could be more of a go help the neighbors out, basically scream that there's a killer on the loose, and try and get as many people saved as possible as Lori. Maybe something like that. What would be really cool is if your actions could actually result in different endings, something that I would think be more prominent with Loomis and Michael's campaign. Loomis's campaign would be to stop Michael from killing as many people as possible, being able to potentially catch him before killing anyone. However, there's a catch. Whoever Myers kills is always random, meaning as Loomis, you'd have to search for clues and make hard calls as to where Michael might be. Some clues pointing one way, while some might point to another area entirely. A dead dog here, big heavy boot prints in the grass there. If Myers manages to kill anyone, it'll be easier to find him since, well, he just killed someone, but it'll be harder to bring Myers down. The more people Michael kills, the more powerful he'll become. Which leaves us with our final character, Michael Myers. Myers would always start in prison and break out, with numerous ways to do so. What the player decides to do after this is completely up to them. I would have the game heavily encourage gathering the iconic mask and coveralls. Without them, I'd have Myers not be nearly as powerful. Essentially, every time you do some sort of evil act, Myers would become stronger and gain new abilities. A stronger teleport, a bit of a faster walk speed, increase the amount of fear he exudes. Fear would be a big part of his gameplay. I would discourage simple killing since that's not all Michael does. He likes to play with his victims. The player would be rewarded for setting bodies up, scaring victims, maybe through stalking them, setting up traps. The more you watch someone, the easier it'll be to cut them down later. Increasing the power in Michael's strikes, you'd also learn key locations as to where victims like to go, so you'll be able to catch them by themselves, just to ensure that people don't get bored just watching a singular victim. Michael will be able to traverse the map in numerous ways to plot his killing path, giving the player plenty of things to do. Initially, he'll need a car, but once he builds up enough evil, the player will get the power trip of their life, being able to use shadows to get the other side of a town in a blink, being able to keep on top of plentiful number of victims, and then when the time is right, it's time for Myers to strike. Myers would be able to kill in a variety of ways, using the environment, any weapon he can scrounge up, his bare hands. Myers is an assassin within the first film, so using stealth will be highly encouraged. And as mentioned before, the more evil he gains, the faster he can take a victim out. A singular strike would be enough to put a victim in the down position if enough evil was gathered, allowing Myers to execute them however he likes. Once that's done, the Myers player can choose to either hide the body, set it up for display, or just ignore it entirely and continue on. If the Myers player manages to take out a ton of people, raising his evil near max, he can become nearly unstoppable, which goes into what I would like to see next. With alternate endings, I would want Michael to have quite a few endings. An ending where he gets caught by a police officer, or if you manage to fight the cops off, Haddonfield just becomes a ghost town. Loomis executing Myers could definitely be one. And lastly, Myers evading the authorities, never to be caught, still hiding in the shadows, waiting for the next chance to strike. That's one way of doing it, but if they want to more closely follow the films, it would be pretty cool if you simply followed highlights for all the characters and play through all the sequels, like going straight to 2018 after the ending of 78 if you wanted to do that. That would be my ideal single-player game. Now, as for the multiplayer game, I have a few ideas to make it stand out from ASIMs of old. For one, I would add NPCs to the world. Halloween does not take place in an abandoned city or faraway camp. It takes place in a populated suburban area, so it should be filled with players and NPCs alike to make the town feel more alive. I would say the match starts within some party, our victim characters find someone dead, and the match begins. Victims could have a variety of objectives. They can go and warn as many NPC characters as possible, alert the authorities, or just make their way to the police station while trying to evade Michael. The Myers player would work very similarly to my single player ideas, simply just wanting to cause as much havoc as possible and increasing his power. Similar-ish to the demon in Evil Dead, but instead of trapping things to level up, you would be killing NPCs and actual human players. It would be a lot more fast-paced than the single-player idea, since going around and hiding bodies would just take way too long in a multiplayer environment. So instead, just put in a plentiful of environment kills similar to F13 that just sets up the body afterwards. Myers would still get rewarded for building fear. It would just need to be more streamlined, just a bit faster to keep the pace of the match going. I would also throw in a Loomis character, but he doesn't operate like Tom and Jarvis. He would spawn in and be the only character allowed to have a gun, and his condition is to take Myers out. Every other character could use melee weapons, but this should absolutely be a last resort. Myers in the movies is shown to be terrifying up close, reacting to attacks and counterattacking. He's just not as tanky as Jason is, so I would give Myers a counter button, no block button. When mastered, taking on Myers head-on would be horrifying. A victim player will have to think twice before engaging with the Myers. If Myers gets a counter off, it'd be a lot of damage for the victim player. Obviously, Myers wouldn't be able to really counter the gun, which would make Loomis valuable to the team, being able to combat Myers better than any other character. Of course, this would just be for 1978. If there are other sequels added, then the rules would change up just a little bit. In a 2018 realm, Laurie would be the Loomis character, and certain films could just outright be different game modes. But that's just me spitballing ideas. I, thought this up just a little bit. I haven't given it like an insane amount of thought. Do you all hope for a single player game or a multiplayer game for the Unreal Engine 5 game? And how would you do it? Thanks for watching, and be sure to watch your backs. Stay safe out there.